This is Escape Room Play, though some call me Play from the ScapeROMFiles, and it's time for me to once again talk about Akiba's trip. There is going to be some monologuing before we get to the actual anime adaptation. And you're probably wondering, why the hell am I talking about this anime shit? Well, first of all, being a degenerate loser who only hangs out on Discord with his butt buddies, whose influenced behavior as of late is totally not anything to do with unexplainable behind the scenes or anything. No, sir. This ain't no Hangry Joe's army or anything. That's a fucking sneak diss if I ever heard one. And also being a fan, not huge fan, like original Vegeta huge fan of Dragon Ball, just fan of Akiba's trip, and also binging quite a bit of anime as of late. Even recently got to watch Beastar Season 3 Part 1, which is good. The ending kind of sucked, and I understand that the cliffhanger ending and advertising from Netflix didn't really make much sense. Dragon Maid, which is actually pretty damn good despite the loudest complaints about the fan service actually being the weakest parts of the show. Though I like to think that people only complain about that because they're insecure little shits who will secretly bottom out over Lady D from Resident Evil Village, or whatever muscular woman is out there that doesn't look like Lara Croft, but I'll digress. And even recently, Akiba's trip. So yes, I've been binge watching some anime, been trying to find ones that are of interest at least, and ones that require a fortnight to sit through. Not that fortnight. There you go. 13 episodes is pretty good, a decent length, and also a decent number of episodes to go through. Even as someone who hasn't played it since the beginning, or even playing the game in 2013, mind you. Yeah, 2013. The year of Metal Gear Rising and The Last of Us. And even the Dark Souls DLC and whatever else came out in between. I don't know. There's too many fucking releases in 2013 that had a pretty big impact in gaming since the hit number sequel 2011. But in all seriousness, I'm going to be rambling about Akiba's trip again, so if you don't want to hear that, that's fine. Just heed my warning for those who say that I don't get to the fucking point. Context and citation is important. So if you care about such things, and understand from my point of view, you will watch. If not, don't leave comments saying that I didn't get to the point when I bitch about this fucking thing. Alright? Now, let's actually talk about Akiba's trip and why I actually love this fucking game. And we'll also criticize the fuck out of it. Akiba's trip is definitely no Resident Evil 4 as far as I'm concerned, being that it's not the greatest game of all time, but it sure as shit has a lot of common with that game in the sense that it has a lot of faults that not a lot of people are willing to talk about, and could probably age pretty badly for a lot of people who don't really get Akiba's trip. I will 100% admit that the game is absolutely not for everyone. And unlike a certain video game that took the world by storm because it was advertised to be so goddamn difficult, and also didn't hold your hand unlike a lot of games today, it sure has a charm that I have yet to see in other games. Sure, you have a way to collect various outfits you can acquire by essentially stripping off your opponents, or at least, depending on the game that you play. In the original, you had to read a book and you could get the damn thing, and then in the sequel, it's just a matter of actually tearing enough clothes so we don't rip it off. Whether you think is better is up to you. While the game isn't exactly a dating sim, you do have various character routes that you go through, and having a mixture of gameplay that some people like to call it the Yakuza, as you're going around in Japan, just going around beating the shit out of people, and the way you can handle side quests, whether it involves talking to people or just getting right into the business and just stripping the shit out of people. Yes, Akiba's Trip is also one of those games. But besides all that sexual flair, which the game is obviously known for, the stories in the two games at least do have a point. In the first game, the Shadow Souls want to coexist with the humans. And in the second game, the Synthesizers, well, okay, I'll admit that the story in the second game is not as good as the original, but of course with the bonding that you get with your fellow Synthesizer lady who essentially gave you the disease, is quite a charming idea that you just don't really get a lot these days. It's satisfied just enough, but it really does leave you wanting more, and because it's not exactly a Bethesda game, it doesn't have as many mods as you expect. Maybe at most having things that remove censorship that was in the updated version, which we will agree is complete crap, but considering just how much was damaged, I don't think it really impacted the game that much, but I'm gonna digress in the censorship shit. The main thing with what makes this game so damn outdated to some is that the combat is honestly not all that good. You know, the thing that people love to gush about when it comes to games like Metal Gear or even The Witcher, where the games have excellent cinematic storytelling, the games have really relatable characters, and the games have that atmosphere regardless of what time it was made, and yet when you actually start playing the game, the controls are pretty damn horrible, and it really makes you wonder if the hype was worth it. Locking on is inconsistent, combat is fine for one-on-one encounters, but unfortunately a lot of the fights in the game are essentially against the odds, and it's pretty much why the sequel had a partner they can use to act as either a second partner to help you attacking, or to be a meat shield that can only withstand so much shipping punishment before they essentially run off into the distance and you have to wait until the next fight to even use them again. And other cryptic shit that can be annoying and other things you can miss if you're not careful, and the event system that can also be easily missed and stuff. And the fact that the fucking sequel had to wait until quite some time with the Director's Cut DLC having a fucking autosave feature. That is crazy. And that the PS4 version was the only version at the time that had the Toy Box mode, which is essentially gaming journalist mode, but you couldn't earn any of the trophies at that time. It was essentially a way to practice the items you could get in the foreseeable future, but actually playing the game felt a lot more rewarding than just being given the tools of the trade. But I think it's a fair compromise for those who don't care about the game or whatever, but personally, I love the game and I played it quite a bit. I can talk about how much I love this game, even if I'm just rambling at this point, but I'm also not going to act like a fucking fanboy about it and act like it's perfect, because it does have faults, mainly with the combat. If people want to gush about how Resident Evil 4 is one of the greatest games of all time, yet also completely tarnished the very identity it created to begin with, I'm going to go ahead and say the very same about Akiba's Trip. It's a game that has a lot of great ideas, but the main gameplay, I'm going to be completely honest, may not be for everyone. If you can manage to align the planets within your head and actually get it, there's something there that you might actually like. Unless you're a xenophobic bastard that hates anything foreign related, or just a person who hates Japanese media, period. I don't think the same people who worked on Tenchu, yes, Tenchu, the same developers who worked on those awesome ninja games who have been published by From Software since Wrath of Heaven, and then people actually misconstrued thinking that From Software made the fucking games, which they didn't. Okay, they made one. It was a shitty puzzle game on Xbox, exclusive by the way, and you can't even buy it legally anymore. Whoops. And I'm going to be one of those people that says that the PSP game Time of the Assassins, or whatever the hell it was called in Japan, it never got a USA release unfortunately, it's pretty damn good. Obviously the Turok Fog and Superman Kryptonite has burdened the game, but that's not what this is all about. What this is about is that I can't express just how unique Akiba's Trip is. It truly does feel like a video game, and not just to mean that people go with, it's the video game of all time. I generally recommend those who are actually watching to have played this game, find some way to play it, even though I'm also going to be completely honest, the PC version is kind of shit for both of them. But it is very much worth it in the long run for obvious reasons. Excuse me, I had a frog in my throat. If you haven't played it, please do so. You'll bite the bullet for remakes in Resident Evil 4, so what's stopping you from playing Akiba's Ship? Because it has sexy women in it, and the fact that you're going around shipping people? How dare you judge a book by its cover? Now let me proceed to shit on Elden Ring and Pokemon again for the next 18 hours. Peons. They are games that are worthy of actually being played and are a more use of your time than whatever shit comes out lately. Especially with a certain video game that rhymes with Shovel Knight Shit Song. While Akiba's Trip, and no, I'm not talking about Akiba's Beat, that is a completely different species that we'll have to get into another time. They may not be groundbreaking games, And the original PSP game is certainly dated, and the HD remaster that came out a while ago unfortunately shows that. It also has a really shitty filter that I just cannot stand, by the way. So there's that. Now, you also don't understand why I cannot stand this fucking anime, okay? But I'm going to tell you a little tale about how I felt after beating the games for the first time. So, prepare your anuses as I reenact how I felt about these games. Here we go. This was my reaction when I played through Akiba's Trip, going through the Xi'an route for the first time. Oh no. No, Nanashi. Why are you going with Xi'an? Don't you know this is the bad end? Why leave your friends behind just to be with this lady who you mistook to be your sister, you fucking flirt ass? No. This is not even close to being the good ending. You're gonna leave everyone behind? Connie, the busty Finland chick? The girl that essentially gave you your powers? And Toko? The lady that was your childhood friend? And even Rin? Shizuku's sister? No way. No. This is the bad ending if I've ever seen it. No. This is completely unacceptable. And even though I got my fucking ass kicked by those three, I still can't help but feel that Xi'an is the one choice that actually matters. Ugh. Damn, dude. This is just insane. This was my reaction on the inside when I played through Kadi's DLC in the Director's Cut version of Akiba's Trip, Undead and Undressed. Also, how dare my waifu Xi'an fall for that bitch of a man? You're no gentleman. You're a dirty old man.
Take a shower. Take a shower. I'm gonna go to the sink and take a shower. Go to the sink and take a shower. Dirty old man.
Why is the fucking final boss a fucking Nier Automata looking ripoff? Yoko Taro should sue. Wow. They actually gave Kadi a very sad backstory, dude. We were cock-blocked out of the one character whose route we actually wanted. And even though people like me wanted the damn harem ending, the busty Finland maid chick finally got sweet justice. And people say that games whose released back on previous gen shouldn't be updated to give us the last hurrah. Come on, man. This was my reaction on the inside, having played Akiba's Trip, Hellbound and Debriefed, going for the coexistence ending. Wow, they actually made the initial villains pretty damn sympathetic. They just want to live with the humans like the rest of us. And it only took so much to get the one true good ending. But at what cost? Damn. It's crazy how this was the original version, but holy shit, the game's combat is ass. Like swamp ass. And not like the meme from quite a while ago, but actual fucking ass. Rui could be an even better waifu than Shizuku, but... oh no. There's actually an ending where you can fight her, dude? No. No, dude. No. We can't no. We have to protect that smile, dude. There is no fucking way any sane person would actually go for the game and fight against the very thing that we have sworn to protect. It's like the Simpsons meme, except it actually is fucking bearing, dude. No fucking way. I am not doing that shit. Besides, her mama's got a better parachute than her anyway. Fuck that bitch. This is probably everyone's reaction having played through the ending where you essentially beat up Rui, if I'm even saying her name correctly, the girl that helped you build your friendship and relationships and all that shit. Oh god, why? No. Why? Why do we have to fight her? Why couldn't we just have the coexistence ending instead? Her clothes aren't even worth selling to that dude. No. No, this isn't even worth it, man. No. And I thought the Shion ending was bad. This is worse. Now, this is my reaction on the inside after having finished Akiba's Trip, the animation.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I apologize if that wasn't exactly the most climactic finish of such things, but... okay. So now that we got the bullshit out of the way, it is finally time to talk about this fucking thing. Let's get some of the common complaints out of the way that I'm going to get from people. It's based on its own thing. You have to let people be happy with the liberties that it takes. It's just an ecchi animation. Of course there's going to be a ton of sexual content. It came out in 2017. You can't complain about this anymore. You're watching the English dub. Watch the Japanese version, you piece of shit. Don't take it so seriously. The show doesn't want to take itself seriously, and you claim to love the games, which also don't take itself seriously. Just enjoy it. If you're gonna criticize, do it correctly. As far as I can tell, Akiba's Trip essentially tells its own story within the same setting, which is in Akihabara, and I'm probably butchering the fuck up pronunciation. But it is a real-life location in Japan. So, obviously, yes, it's going to use a lot of settings that are based on real life. No duh. But as with something like Far Cry, Final Fantasy, or even Demon Souls and Dark Souls, they all have a similar premise, and they kind of reuse ideas a lot, but it's still its own instant storytelling, which is fine. I'm not expecting the nanashis from the games to appear. I know there's a manga that actually is more in line with the games and like the adaptation that we have on here. And yes, I know that the games had its own goofy shit, which the first game was a little bit more darker and compared to the second game, which is a bit more lighthearted, but it still had a damn point. And honestly, I don't know what the hell the point of this fucking animation is. Also, just because it so happens to be based on a game series where you ship your opponents down to their underwear does not excuse the discrepancies and continuity errors that most other adaptations wish they could get away with. It's very baffling that there are a lot of people who actually like this, which kind of surprised me considering that freshly watching this and clearly remembering my playthroughs of Akiba's Trip kind of makes me pissed off, to be honest. Because I know there's things that could have easily been fixed, but yet, as with almost every adaptation, including Twisted Metal, the writers and directors have to do their own liberties, and unfortunately they kind of take it a little bit too far. And no, I don't care that they're using different characters. That is entirely the point of Akiba's Trip and the other IPs I mentioned. Yes, it would be a lot more insulting if they ruined those characters, but having that understanding that each iteration of Akiba's Trip has its own lineup of characters, I don't expect it to be just like the other ones, but I do have a problem with bad writing. And this series has some pretty damn bad writing, and also really annoying cliches of anime that even if they're trying to poke fun at it, doesn't automatically give it a pass. So, before I actually dissect the episodes, there's not that many to talk about, I'm going to go ahead and talk about some of the characters really quick. I'm not going to talk about every single character that appeared in this damn thing, but I want to get the main points out of the way. And you have to forgive me for my Japanese pronunciation. I speak English. I learned English. And I know English. Deal with it. This incarnation of Nanashi is Tamuso. He's essentially like the other Nanashis, although this one actually has a speaking role. So obviously he's going to have a lot more emotion compared to the other two that were in prior games. So I don't really have a problem with him per se. There's a lot of lines from him that are pretty funny, at least, when the show at least tries to focus on that sort of thing. So, aside from the bullshit plot armor, which we're going to be talking about a little bit later, I guess he's an okay character. The female interest, though, I don't really like too much. Besides the fact that her name is Mayonnaise, and I can't help but compare myself to think that there is a certain condiment who speaks bullshit, but that has nothing to do with anything, but just for the sake of bringing it up. This is the female equivalent who has the powers that is given to the protagonist, which is actually played pretty well alongside the games, where in both incarnations, they're nearly damn dead. But the lady essentially gives him a kiss, and in turn turns them into the creatures they have to end up fighting, which is in line with the games. I don't have an issue with that. The problem is that this, in the anime incarnation, is essentially plot armor. The characters in Akiba's trip, whether it be the synthesizers, shadow souls, or as this fucking anime calls it, the bugged ones, which, really, they couldn't think of a better name. And I don't care what it's fucking called in Japan. It's a shitty name. The general rule of the Shadow Souls and Synthesizers is that wearing clothing during daylight helps them to not be burned alive. They're essentially like vampires, except they don't go around sucking blood, though they do blend in to the crowd of Akiba, Japan, pretty damn well. And there's even some Synthesizers or Shadow Souls, or bugged ones. I'm just going to call them whatever. I'm going to interchange them because, first of all, I hate the term bugged ones, and second of all, they're kind of more or less the same, except in this incarnation, they're not really nice, per se, although there's maybe one or two exceptions, but whatever. They essentially have to wear clothing so that they don't eradicate by the sunlight. But the thing is, with going by game logic, you have your hat, your pants, and your shirt. And if all three of them are removed, you're basically fucked. Now, of course, if it's a regular person, then nothing will happen. They'll just be running around in their underwear and being arrested by the cops for public indecency. Whatever. This adaptation attempts to have two versions of the bugged ones, with the lower level ones not being necessarily eradicated, while the bigger ones end up being eradicated. Yeah, I call bullshit. Also, I'm going to pull a line directly from Akiba's trip 2, where they essentially explain that synthesizers do not go for the bra and panties of the victims that they go after.
下着まで狙ってくることはないわ。
I don't think they'll go quite that far.
And just for the sake of fan service, they go completely against that. Which, I have one or two theories as to why they did this. Number one, Acquire was not able to make a game where you can go around shipping people completely naked and collecting their underwear. And yes, I know this was kind of a thing in Akiba's trip too, but if people are going to say that game mechanics aren't canon, like with how the Hyper Emeralds aren't canon in Sonic 3 because Caesars, or how Knuckles going Super Knuckles isn't canon but yet he retains his power, we're going to have to use that bullshit here too. There's not even a sequence in the damn anime where Nanashi and Mayonnaise Girl essentially do a unison strip, let alone a chain strip where they essentially get all of the synthesizers' underwear and shit. That doesn't happen at all. And the fight sequences kind of go on a little too quickly due to that fact. There's not even like a tug-of-war thing going on, which at least kind of makes sense, where they're trying to pull the clothes off, which is also a game mechanic. You have to wear down the clothes so you can just rip them off, but Mary Sue and Gary Sue, they can just fight the enemies no problem, which is also complete bull. But I'll digress. And theory number 2, it's animes, and knowing just how much ecchi there is, and with little regard to substance and fan service, that's why you clearly see the characters, like Mayonnaise, essentially being nearly damn stripped, yet not showing any signs of being weak whatsoever. You have another character who goes by Arissa, and I'm not even going to try and pronounce her last name. This is the Kati equivalent of the group, and essentially she has the powers of a bugged one, but yet is the human, so she can essentially hold out on her own. Yeah, I'm just gonna be honest, a lot of the scenes involving her is just nothing but cheap fan service, and the fact that they even strip her down to damn near nothing while having her being covered, even though
下着まで狙ってくることはないわ。
I don't think they'll go quite that far.
but yet they do so anyway. It just kind of bothers me that basic continuity just get ignored in favor of, look, blonde double D titties. Which I know might seem kind of crazy, considering that I'm the one to talk about fan service and shit, but if you're adapting an existing property, at least be faithful to the fucking games. If you're at least making your own IP, make it have a point. And unfortunately, neither case even comes up. Someone's gonna say, well, Senran Kagura has all the shipping even down to their bra and panties. Katsuragi, who actually has an interesting character development. But her backstory actually has meaning and could be relatable, but people only care about one thing. I don't hate Arisa completely, I just don't like how she's essentially just as strong, if not possibly stronger, than the two characters who are supposed to be strong due to the fact that one of them has the bugged one mechanics, and yet they use her as a means for fan service. And it does get kind of annoying after a while, but that's just me. This is Akiba's trip after all. This isn't some random anime who happens to have firefighting but yet completely ruined it because of nonsense, but whatever. Then we finally get the little sis of the group, which quite surprisingly is much more alongside the second game where she's actually not a complete dick and she's also not an introvert. So she's essentially a happy-go-lucky girl, but of course, as it turns out, she's not really good at combat, and even in that one episode, she's essentially the damsel in distress. She doesn't really hold on her own, which is kind of unfortunate since, at least in the first game, despite the sister not really being much of a fighter herself, and no, I'm not going to count the one fight as its game mechanics aren't canon, bro. It looks like she could hold up a fight with just how fucking tough and sassy it is. And even in the second game, she at least fights alongside you, but in this incarnation, she doesn't really do much. There are a couple of scenes where you see her bra and panties, but surprisingly, unlike Arisa, it kind of makes sense. So I can definitely see why people don't like the fact that they have to sexualize a little girl in anime. Oh no, like that's never been done before, you guys. That's totally a foreign concept in fucking Japan. Yeah, I sound like a fucking schizophrenic motherfucker, but they can't even get their basic game logic correct. That's what I'm mainly annoyed at, but whatever. Maybe I'd find something else to complain if it wasn't based on Akiba's trip, but it really shouldn't be that hard to follow basic game continuity, but what do I know? There's two other characters that I do want to talk about. Tazujin, which is a completely new character for the series. I don't know if there's any incarnation based on this character. She's essentially a scientist. There's only one episode where you see her panties, and it's kind of for valid reasons, I guess. And then you get Kage-san. Some of the character designs in this show kind of remind me of South Park, where you just have some characters that just look completely different to the rest of the group. And unlike the Beavis and Butthead movie, it doesn't feel like a fucking eyesore, and it actually fits in line with what design they're going for in there. So I'll definitely give the designers some props, where they actually make characters that look really fucking goofy, but yet they actually do fit in pretty damn well with Akiba's trip. There's some other characters, the Vigilante group, they don't really get much screen time. You could take them out of the anime and they wouldn't really offer much in return. This damn show has the Monster of the Week flavor that at least worked in Sailor Moon in its humble beginnings, as it was quite interesting at the time, but then as the series evolved, it actually kind of got pretty damn dark, pretty damn fast, and it actually had time to build up compared to what 13 episodes we got into shit. Most of the villains in the anime are just one-off characters that don't really appear again, or they're just characters that don't have much of interest. But hey, look, it's funny, it's quirky, it references things like Devil May Cry 5 did, so it has to be good. Hey, look, you even see Kadi in one episode, so obviously it must be good. Right, sure. Well, let's just get into the episodes, I guess. I don't want to really ramble too much about some bullshit, even though I'm going to probably get flagged for complaining about fan service in a fucking anime, but I don't really fucking care. This fucking anime wants to be based on a game series that kind of does fan service pretty well, but in a media form where you're just watching shit, it can get kind of obnoxious and doesn't get basic shit correctly. So the pilot episode essentially sets up the things to come. There's not really much to talk about besides the fact that they show the main character dying nearly to death, and you have the redhead mayonnaise kissing the dude so that he can come back to life, but having powers, but of course being told that if his clothes come off, he'll essentially die, which, yeah, like that ever fucking happens. No. Essentially being a 22-minute pilot of how Nanashi gets his powers and stuff is fine. So, no problem. I don't really have much to complain about with that, at least. The second episode definitely starts to show on just how wacky and serious this anime wants to be at the same time. The main monster of this week is this giant dude who essentially has a gun store, and he essentially has military dudes shooting up the place and stuff. He even has bullets that disintegrate clothes. Yeah, clothes. Now, I know this sounds really fucking surreal, but you think that this damn anime would have a little thing from the games where you can essentially put something called UV sunscreen or some shit, where you can essentially protect yourself even after being nearly damn naked so that you don't end up fucking dying? No, they never once referenced that shit. And I know for a fact that is a fucking item that's in the games. There's also no junk shop equivalents where you can get your clothes back if they happen to get repped or whatever, so... You think for an episode that has a bunch of soldiers who have incendiary clothes and shit, you think they would bring that up, but no. So, yeah, that's pretty bad. I do like the interactions between the big boss and the little dude. I thought that was pretty funny. But because of how 22 minutes is not nearly given enough time for a lot of action, the fight scenes do go on fairly quick and the characters just do not shut up. It's kind of like watching a really shitty Saturday morning cartoon where the characters in there have to say something and can't let any development happen, or else the kids are not going to pay attention to the fucking action at all. It does at least keep going at a brisk pace, but it really does remind me of those old cartoons back then where the characters just do not shut up, and even cartoons that do that very thing today. It just gets very damn obnoxious, but what do I know? It is a fairly interesting first proper monster of this week, and I should mention, by the way, this actually was a weekly airing, and it also has the thing where they have both English and Japanese dubs, which some people consider a milestone, but yet you talk to anyone about anime nowadays and they'll go on about unfaithful translations and shit. Yeah, there might be lines that change here and there, and maybe deliveries and stuff, but it doesn't change the fact that this damn anime has a lot of damn discrepancies in the game. And again, I'm not expecting it to have characters from the fucking games. I understand they're gonna have different characters take on the role, but the way they change the synthesizers and shit just kind of annoy me. Just remember that. Episode 3 essentially sets up how the trio in the group form a idol pop group or some shit, but the person that hires them is a bugged one, but yet is not a high level one, so they obviously don't die. So hey, look at that, a character who is a low level bugged one, so they don't die. It's almost as if they might be important later on, which ironically enough is. There's also another character in the anime that does appear quite a bit, and she actually has a black robe on. This is actually Fukame. Yeah, just Fukame. I don't want to spoil the last name. It's actually pretty important. This fucking Lady D ripoff motherfucker, you might think is a pretty damn important character, and she is, but you barely get any fucking screen time with this bitch. So why the hell should I care? Episode 4 is another interesting episode, actually. Even though it's kind of struggling with the fan service from busty Finland chick whose name is not fucking Kadi. And even Kadi before the DLC was at least an actual character who, despite having the stripper and Shion's route, was at least a fucking character. Someone would say, oh, she's actually a character too. She cares about Akiba like the rest of us.
Right.
A bunch of cell phones and other electronics explode, and they have to use radio waves to send a transmitter to someone in Brazil to fight another bugged one who, surprise, surprise, is a low-level bugged one, so they're obviously going to be important later on, but oops. It turns out that this particular bugged one was actually a former colleague of... the fuck is her name? Kazujin, and thank God it didn't go off the Dr. Light and Dr. Wily bullshit. I was seriously going to be really pissed off if they brought that damn trope back into this, but surprisingly they didn't. Episode 5 is where I kind of started to resent the fucking anime. You have to keep in mind with something. This shit came out in 2017. And you want to know what fighting game was very hot popular 1 year from that time frame? Yeah, that fighting game. The fighting game where DSP was actually correct, but only because he sucked ass and couldn't get money playing a game that he fucking hates. A fucking amazing. Aside from the jokes in that episode, which are actually pretty damn funny, especially with how the character that Nanashi has to fight, and the quite frankly ridiculous montage that even the writers themselves essentially explained that we couldn't have time to animate this. It kind of reminded me of The Clerks, an actually good show. They only got 6 fucking episodes, but whatever. And then the bit where fucking Nanashi has to strip his clothes off, and then someone mentioned that there was a very small demographic of such things, except you clearly see the female lady that he has to fight for some fucking reason. I honestly don't even get this. Like, they make it a literal plot point where Nikawa, if I'm saying her name correctly, Nanashi's sister, essentially gets grabbed by the ghoulies, the fucking crane game, and yet fucking Nanashi has to win a Street Fighter tournament, which, by the way, they very poorly reference Evo Moment 37, which is complete bullshit, but I'm not gonna really get into that because I could turn this into a fucking Street Fighter 5 rant in 2025, and I just do not feel like it. Besides, it's not even 2026 yet, so we'll save that for next year. Hopefully, if I even remember. I probably might. It's an entire plot point where Nanashi has to compete in Street Fighter 5 just to save Nikawa, and yet at the very end of the fucking episode, she was just at home playing video games. Oh, and I gotta love the bit from the dude who probably was an actual in real life person who just shelled the fuck out of the game. Please don't hate Street Fighter 5! Fuck you! Street Fighter 5 sucks. Nothing boils my blood more than seeing praise for shitty games that don't deserve praise. Elden Ring. The next episode is actually fairly accurate, a little bit too much considering with what goes on today. Nanashi and his friend essentially gather up parts to build a computer, and then the Indian scientist essentially comes up with an operating system that has an AI built into it. Okay, remember, this is 2017, so this isn't some hocus-pocus bullshit, alright? This episode actually had some pretty good meaning to it, despite the monster of the week so happened to being that it's this fucking supercomputer boss-like thing who can just easily unplug. Puko, that's the name of the fucking AI program, pulls a Iron Giant and essentially saves the day. But at what cost? And they also make it a plot point, by the way, where the bugged ones cannot leave Akiba, which makes no fucking sense to me. It was fairly touching, but it's just like, dude, you're in Akiba. You can just ask a damn professor to build you another fucking supercomputer. It wasn't like that she had exactly one operating system. Later on in the fucking same episode, there's a version 2. Does this fucking Indian bitch have only 2 OSs in the world, or did it just not feel like building another damn supercomputer? It really doesn't make any lick of sense. The next episode also doesn't really make a fucking lick of sense. The episode opens up with Nanashi trying to take pictures of a figurine that he got his sister, which he accidentally ends up breaking, and then he tries to find a job in which to replace the damn thing, and yet everyone's mad at him for being selfish and ignoring the other duties of the freedom fighters, or whatever the fuck they're called. How the fuck is he being selfish? Yeah, he broke the figurine by accident, but this fucking mayonnaise bitch is essentially saying, you shouldn't be so selfish, you should be out there patrolling. Like, what the fuck? And don't tell me that the Japanese version has a much better explanation. What the actual fuck kind of mindset is this? I'd say it's almost as bad as Everybody Knows It's Bendy, except the thing that follows even more is even worse, as Nanashi essentially ends up working at a maid cafe, where rather than being paid money, the thing that he's trying to do for his sister, essentially ends up getting a bunch of thank you vouchers, which just make no fucking sense. And of course, it turns out that the head establishment is held by one of the bugged ones, and his explanation for why he's doing such things is really fucking ridiculous, by the way. It's just absurdly unreal. And then out of buttfuck nowhere in the end, despite being lectured about how he shouldn't be so selfish to find a job to help buy another fucking figurine for his sister, he essentially gets one anyway, and that's basically the entire episode. What the fuck? God, this is fucking dumb. I have to admit the next episode was actually pretty good, despite the fan service with fucking Finland chick, but it actually was pretty damn tasteful, surprisingly, as she isn't completely shipped down, which, I know, shocking.
下着まで狙ってくることはないわ。
I don't think they'll go quite that far.
actually has some tasteful fan service. What a shock. Yes, I understand the character proportions would make anyone riled up, probably myself included. But come the fuck on, this is Akiba's trip. I think you can do better than just trying to go for nothing but net. This is essentially a parody of wrestling, and not just World Wrestling Federation, whatever the hell you want to call it. It actually has some pretty damn good backstory for Finland chick. I apologize if I keep butchering the names, but I can't come up with any other way to explain it. So, Finland chick it is. Essentially, she knew a master and explains why she's so damn good at her fighting skills, and you have a bugged one who essentially brainwashed the master, and they end up partaking in a wrestling ring. And they do this because they initially end up fighting in some sort of electronic parts store, in which says, if you keep fighting here, I'm going to revoke your right to purchase stuff. And everyone was all sad. I actually got a pretty good laugh about that. It was actually fairly entertaining, and there were some pretty damn spicy camera shots, I'll definitely say. Definitely spicy, but nothing I can complain about. It was actually a very good episode. I wish more of the episodes were like this, where it actually does play with the parody stuff pretty well and embracing that otaku crap without actually ruining the thing that it's based on. Speaking of parodies, we got another episode that's actually very good. It's essentially the Yu-Gi-Oh! Episode. This is probably the one other episode that people talk about a lot, and my god is it fucking hilarious. It really plays along with those tropes really damn well. It even opens up with Finland girl, shaming I think, opening up a bunch of cards. Now I'm gonna be honest, I'm kind of surprised they don't have this thing where people only watch her for her jiggles and shit, in which either I think people are either smarter than that, or she really is that damn clueless, but whatever. They actually didn't do any tasteless jokes with that, so I'm certainly surprised. But essentially the episode plays out like a really shitty Yu-Gi-Oh! Episode where the dude challenges Nanashi to a deck duel. Wow. It's so ridiculous. It's just like watching 4Kids' Yu-Gi-Oh! It was just fucking great. Like, this episode was actually really good. There's even like a bunch of callbacks to how the card game rules would display like in the anime, and even things that just don't make any sense, and yet when Nanashi and the dude are dueling, it's so fucking played out over the top like it is in Yu-Gi-Oh! But then we have, what the fuck are their names? Mayonnaise, Finland chick, and Nanashi's sister. They see it from the viewpoint it's just a regular card game or whatever, which I just thought was so great. It definitely just shows how fucking exhilarating this anime could have been if it kind of focused half on making fun of other tropes and stuff compared to just getting so much wrong with the actual IP it's based on. Speaking of parodies, I know this may seem kind of off the hook, but there's actually a bunch of lines in Akiba's trip that clearly references other stuff, whether it be the English dub referencing the Zelda cartoon, fucking Airplane of all things. That's the kind of things that make those joke choices work well with the parody stuff that they got going on. I'm sure the Japanese version, the more faithful version of it, by the way, probably just has just as much weird things going on there, but it's that kind of stuff that just makes me laugh, both on the inside and on the outside. Unfortunately, though, the last 4 episodes kind of essentially turn into complete bullshit, as it's essentially a 4-part story arc that essentially wraps up the rest of the fucking anime. So now, 9 episodes out of 13, now we need a essentially 4-part story arc. Amazing. So, let's just get down to business. Episode 10 opens up with what I'm pretty sure is a reference or parody of no matter how I look at it, it's you guys' fault I'm not popular, or just known as Watamote. It actually is pretty damn funny, and I don't know, there's just something with the opening bit that's actually pretty good. And essentially the whole plot of episode 10 is that they have Nanashi and the mayonnaise girl going out on a fake date, because most of the character tropes of Mayonnaise Girl is that she's one of those people who has feelings for Nanashi but can't actively express her feelings on him in a way. And they essentially get off really well by going on a fake date where they essentially go to very specific places in Akiba that is essentially shilling for various food joints within the location. Yeah, this episode also got a bit of flack for essentially being nothing but very blatant advertisement for fucking products that people would get pissed off at if they so much as saw anything like in Crackdown or the NBA games of now, or even back when Tony Hawk was still a thing, where you saw an advertisement for McDonald's and then people lost their minds because, oh my god, this company Neversoft is making kids fat because it has a McDonald's sign in the fucking game. The actual conflict of this episode with the Monster of the Week is that you have this dude who eats for sport, which really doesn't make any sense. And apparently the whole excuse of that is that they have Mayonnaise Girl essentially being one of those poor people who had to savor every piece of food that she could find. What? Going back to the games one more time, I'm pretty sure in Akiba's Trip 2, one of the negative points of Nanashi in that game turning into a syntheser is that he essentially had a bottomless stomach and essentially wanted more food, like Goku, except actually being a fucking character. It could probably be a better father than Goku, but that's a bit of a low blow. Sorry, Toriyama-san. May his soul rest in peace. It actually does end on a fairly interesting note where they just enjoy each other's company by going to various food places. Which, honestly, if it wasn't for the fact that they showed the various locations in Akiba, it actually could have been a pretty heartwarming episode. But then the episode ends with an imposter among us. Oh no! And you actually have that Oni mask that is a sign of things to come. Okay. Yeah, this is the start of a path of darkness that I just cannot believe I have to recite, as it's actually been hours after watching the damn thing. Yeah, my sleep schedule's also been fucked. Good to know an hour in, by the way. So now we get episode number 11, the Akiba Festival, which I'm pretty sure is totally not a thing taken from Akiba's Trip 2. But whatever. This really makes no fucking sense. Essentially, there is an imposter among us who has essentially did really bad things. And it's like, wasn't there another episode, like not even really that much long ago, where the vigilante group and other places are being won over by a bunch of girls and then they learn to just, you know, not let the group ruin them, but yet the moment that they see a couple of signatures from the electric mayonnaise, they all of a sudden have a problem with that. I don't know, it's just really fucking retarded. But essentially, imposter mayonnaise has these two burly looking motherfuckers that gives off Powerpuff Girls imposter syndrome. Seriously, what the fuck? They have a pretty decent fight, but then it turns out that the fucking imposter, whatever the fuck her name is, mayonnaise chick, has more than what's going on, and then uses a damn dirty trick to essentially undo the effects of the bugged ones, making Nanashi into a normal fucking human. Do I need to explain how fucking retarded this is? I have nearly escaped death. I don't have powers anymore, even though the said powers saved my life. Is this damned bug one like some sort of elixir parasite or some shit? Like, come on. It was also made very clear in both Akiba's Trip games that the first kiss is the only one you get or whatever, and even in Akiba's Trip 2, Rin uses that kiss with Toko, or Chuko, whatever the fuck you want to go by, and essentially become Akiba's finest warriors who are both powered by the thing that brought them together in the first place. Are we really going to have a thing in this adaptation where they have an on and off switch for such things now? And the fact that he falls for it so easily, too. And there's another thing that also doesn't make any fucking sense, and we're going to get to that later. Episode 12 is where shit just literally starts hitting the fan. And keep in mind, this was in 2017. First of all, despite Nanashi drowning in the last episode, he's perfectly fine. And he's now once again become human. But also because of this fact, Mayonnaise Girl doesn't want to revert him back to the power that he had before and just wants him to fuck off so he can finish the fight on her own, I guess. But then what about fucking what's-her-face, the Finland chick? She can fight perfectly fine, and she's not even a fucking syntheser, bugged one, shadow souls, whatever the fuck. It's just bullshit excuse for her to finish the fight on her own and fight Imposter Girl, who turns out to be her twin sister. But that's not the crazy shit. No. Akiba's government wants to essentially ban anything and everything fun, and even having a character who is blatantly Corporation Devil Incarnate. Seriously. You cannot tell me this is symbolism for something by any other name. Even the fucking hair has fucking little horns and shit. And she's not even a fucking bugged one. It's just they wanted to have a shitty government-type character, which I forgot to mention, by the way. There was a screen cap of the card game episode. It actually shows both Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton battling cards. So not only was that shit actually funny, but it also proves that this fucking anime that's all wacky and serious now wants to try and be political. Yes. Because of course. Now I would show the screenshot, but I don't want to get copyright flagged by Toei Animation. Apparently the backstory of the twin sister is that the other mayonnaise chick going against Grandma's wishes, and you're probably, who the fuck is Grandma? Grandma is the fucking black robe lady who looks like Lady D from Resident Evil, but with that meme red eye shit. Yeah, this is the character that was teased in the openings and like maybe the first couple episodes, and despite having this shocking revelation of an episode, you think that there would actually be I don't know, more screen time for this fucking bitch to actually build up to it? Like, even Sailor Moon in its fucking infancy, at least when the villains are on screen, they actually had, this thing called build-up. And it's already too damn late to care about this shit. It doesn't even help that fucking mayonnaise bitch just doesn't care about Nanashi, despite the fact that they got along pretty damn fine in the episode where they went around advertising their latest food and shit. But oh, guess what? It takes one kiss from fucking Mayonnaise Girl to get Nanashi's powers back. Oh fuck, my powers are gone. I'm a human now, whatever will I do? Oh shit, I got my powers back, and I'm stronger than before. You mean to tell me that it just takes one damn kiss to actually get his powers back? This episode is a fucking waste of time, even if the build-up didn't even really do much. It would just take one damn kiss to fucking get his powers back, and yes, he's like, I'm gonna finish this fight all by myself, fuck you. And then, understandably, Nanashi essentially breaks down into a hollow shell because he essentially realized that there's #nothing I can do. Bugged mechanics, dude. Bugged ones are roaming the city. They can't do anything about it, so even his sister tries to cheer him up, but of course, I gotta have one last fan service shot of him pulling down her sister's pants by accident. She fucking rightfully socks him in the face. And then, oh shit, Mayo and Mayo's sister are fighting on the moon. I'm pretty sure that's another reference to some anime that did that shit before. Yeah, this episode was fucking stupid. I hated it. Episode 13, Akiba's Last Trip. Yeah, apparently this anime wants to be cute and funny, with the pilot episode being Akiba's First Trip, and then the last episode being called Akiba's Last Trip. Yeah, real funny. Not. So, Mayonnaise and Nanashi going through some sort of dungeon-like area, and they find this Famicom controller, and out of butt-fuck nowhere, she has the cheat code to go for the dungeon, and then they end up fighting other bugged ones who, now they're just former shells themselves. Oh, and they also name-drop the fucking age of Mayonnaise, which is 78. Mayonnaise sister is not a high-ranking bugged one, so she doesn't completely disappear off the face of the earth. But after one battle with Grandmama, she essentially takes Mayonnaise chick, has her tied to some fucking giant kaiju monster. And of course you have that trope where she's bound like fucking Noelle Vermillion in Central Fiction, or whatever the fuck that character's name is in fucking Elden Ring, or even that one scene in Persona that people, quite frankly, post a little too much whenever it's fucking Easter, or even that bit in Sailor Moon is just ridiculously dark for probably good reason. Symbolism, I guess. And then with the power of friendship and love, they essentially overpower Grandmama and their fucking giant-ass kaiju, and then Nanashi and Mayonnaise Chick form another kaiju and then just do battle, and then, oh no, Grandmama is dying, even though she wanted Akiba to be like the old days, oh no. And then they all kiss and make up, except they didn't even get a proper kiss. They actually got a proper kiss earlier back, but oh no, there's a futuristic Finland chick and fucking Nanashi's sister from the future, and they go off into space and some shit. Yeah, that's how the fucking episode ends. But not before those damn dirty politician piece of shit being manhandled by some fucking giant chick, I guess, who might be a reference to that one enemy in Akiba's ship who is strangely taller than the rest of the cast, who wears sunglasses for some reason. I don't know. This fucking anime sucks. I've tried to see what other people thought of it. There is one review I saw on an article that made a lot of sense, but I did do some looking on YouTube, and I've seen people actually praise this for some reason. This anime is at its best when it's just making fun of other IPs and shit, but it can't even adapt the thing that it's based on correctly. I know that it's loosely based on Akiba's Trip. Yes, I get that they can't use the other incarnations of prior Akiba's Trip games. I get that. I don't have a problem with that. The problem is that the new incarnations they have are fucking terrible, and even the interesting character in the show, the Bussy Finland chick, she's either used for bad fan service, or even when she could fight her own, doesn't even fight alongside Mayonnaise chick. Yeah, I would definitely say maybe just watch the episode with the card battle and that wrestling episode, and maybe the pilot if you want to give it a watch. That Street Fighter episode was definitely the point where the anime just started to piss me off, and the other episodes from episode 10 and onwards where it just like gets really fucking obnoxious. I don't want to say that it's worse than like Twisted Metal in the sense that I didn't feel like it's Akiba's shit, because it clearly is at the very least. It just is probably the worst incarnation of it so far. But this fucking anime just really annoyed the fuck out of me, and people are wondering if we're going to get a season 2. Nope. And if it does, then well, maybe we'll actually get a third Akiba strip game that'll actually be infinitely better than watching this or its supposed season 2. But whatever. I don't have much else to say. This fucking anime sucks, and I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of people mad at me that I dare criticize fan service and a show that's all about it, and even the IP that's based on.